Hey everyone, it's Phil Wade. We're just getting ready to get started. Thank you for being here. Give it another 30 seconds, see if anybody else joins us. Everybody could say hello, let me know who's here, how the video is coming through, how the sound is. Hey Tim. Hey Ellen. Hey Jackie. Aya, good to see you. Awesome. Hey Lisa, thank you for being here. Hey Bob. We'll give it a minute and we'll get going. Hey Max. Awesome. Hi Pat, how are you? Hey Sandy, good to see you. All right, this is one of my favorite presentations. It's very near and dear to me, and it's an important one, and it can help you as an agent. So, all right, let's get started. And these webinars work best. Feel free to answer any questions. We're here to all learn. So let's get right into it. Tonight we're going to be talking about prospecting, withdrawn, expired, and for sale by owner listings. All right, so let's do kind of a little terminology, make sure we understand everything. So, all right, a withdrawn listing. Seller asks for the listing to be withdrawn from the MLS prior to the contract being up. So they're still under contract, still a listing agreement, but the seller and the listing brokerage has agreed to withdraw that listing. There's two types of withdrawn listings. One will say conditional, be a C next to it on the MLS. Those, if the seller sells their home, they still owe that original broker a commission. So we probably don't want to be prospecting them. Ones that are unconditionally withdrawn will say nothing is due the previous broker, and we're certainly able to talk to those folks, call those folks, and try to build a relationship with them. An expired listing has come to the end of its term without the property being sold. So those are fine to prospect as well. And then for sale by FSBO, for sale by owner, that's someone attempting to sell their home on their own. Fairly basic, right? So a little better understanding of who we are going out and trying to prospect. Now, why I like these groups is that they've raised their hands. Hey Billy, good to see you. They've raised their hands and they said, hey, I'm selling. I've tried to sell and maybe I was unsuccessful, or I'm doing it my own, but they've raised their hand and they've told you, hey, I'm thinking of selling right now or very soon. As opposed to, mailing a neighborhood where maybe nobody is selling, or knocking on doors. Door knocking can work. It's not something I've ever been all that passionate about. But, because again, you're going to lock on a lot of doors, and, those, no problem, Jessica. I'm glad to do it. It's fun. Those folks aren't selling. I mean, you did get to meet them, and maybe, a couple years down the road, they will be selling and they may think of you, but hey, look, we all could be out of business in 2 years, right? We need business now. I'm always worried about March, April, how am I doing? How are my agents doing? And that's how you need to think. You have to have that fire, right? I mean, so you want to be dealing with people that, potentially can list right now, and potentially, hey Liz, good to see you, and potentially bring in some revenue for you right away. So that's a little background on, kind of withdrawn, expired, and FSBOs. All right, let's move on to the next slide. All right. The first bullet is human capital versus financial capital. Does anybody know what human capital is? What is your human capital? Who knows? Anybody know? Type it in. Tim, you got it. You were quick. Good job. Your human capital, no, it's not your people. It's your time. It is your time. Your time is worth money. It is very, very valuable. Your financial capital is your money, right? So when you're a new agent, your time. Thank you, Pat. Perfect. Exactly. And you want to use your time. Hello, Gary. You want to use your time as efficiently as possible because it's valuable, right? And when you're calling, expired, withdrawn FSBOs, there's a cost. It's your time, but it's not directly out of your pocket, so to speak. Financial capital is money you spend. You might be doing some Zillow leads or Realtor.com leads, or hey Don, thank you for being here, or whatever it happens to be, right? So your human capital is your time. You want to deploy your time very, very effectively as an agent. All right. So again, warm calling, why call this warm calling? Cold calling, hey Evelyn, warm calling is different than cold calling. Cold calling, some brokers will tell you, hey, call the phone book. No, that's a waste of time, right? Warm calling, again, these folks, FSBOs, expired, and withdrawns, have raised their hands and said, I'm selling now, or I've just tried to sell. So there's a high likelihood they'll be selling in the future. So they're a much better call. That's where you want to be spending your time. You got to make the calls. It is, bullet 3. It's one of the most important things you can do. But most agents hate to do it. Most agents don't do it. The ones that do it and get good at it survive, build their business. And we're going to talk, hey Kamal, we're going to talk a little bit why, listings are so valuable. You can be a buyer's agent, and that's fine. That's how many sort of new agents start. But being a listing agent is so much better for really a number of reasons, and I'll kind of get into that right now. So if you're a buyer's agent and you're in Key West, your business is stopped, right? You're on vacation, you've gone away for 3 or 4. We're going to talk about that in a bit, Pat. Good question. That's a great question. There are some services out there that will help you with that. They're not very expensive. We're going to get into that kind of at the end of the presentation. So again, as a buyer's agent, you're limited to, you have to be there. You have to take them out in order of meeting your client, in order for them to see a house, and then hopefully they'll tell you to write an offer. But when you're a listing agent, you can be in Key West. You can be having a margarita, and that buyer's agent can potentially sell that house for you. They email you the contract, you look it up on your phone, you forward it to your seller, and you made money while you were in Key West. How awesome is that? Listings are the best part of the business. There's another reason why listings are so good. I call it the multiplier effect. When you have a listing, you can sell the listing, but you meet buyers for free. Buyers come to your open houses. Buyers call you off the internet. Buyers call you off your sign. Now, your first duty is to sell that home for your seller. But most times, 99% of the time, that buyer that you made contact with either off your sign, they contacted you off the internet, or at an open house, you can pick them up as a buyer's client. And here's the thing, when you have a listing, you look better. Like, for some reason, what I found is when you have a listing, you seem like a better agent. Like, don't you think, like, agents that have listing, we all kind of look up to them and we think, oh, how did they do that? How did they get that listing? And it's a perception, but it's true. So again, sometimes you're doing open houses and they're still good, even if you're doing them for another agent, but it's always better when it's your listing. You just seem more substantive as a real estate professional. So that's why listings are so great. I mean, I had one listing. This is when I practiced real estate up north. From that one listing, myself and a few of my colleagues, we ended up getting, I think it was 16 transactions from one listing. It just spidered out in this unbelievable way. We met buyers there, then we sold their house, then we sold the neighbor's house. There you go, Zach. I mean, it is really what it's all about. Zach had the multiplier effect happen to him, right? He had the listing. Hopefully that's going to go under agreement. He's going to sell that. And then he met a buyer. There's only one thing better than listings. Who knows what that is? One thing better than listings. Anyone know? I use this. Referrals. Referrals are good. All right. But that's not what I was looking for, Anne Marie. Sold without listing. Nope. Here it is, guys. I'm going to type it in. Expensive listings. Expensive listings. Who are you meeting at expensive listings? You're meeting higher end buyers. It's the same work. Actually, it's harder sometimes to sell a $200,000 property as it is a $500,000 property. Who are you meeting at? And again, we're not turning our nose up. We love every possible transaction we can get. But, you know, $200,000 properties, we're meeting $200,000 buyers. They tend to be FHA, right? There may be more credit challenge. They actually are harder to get done and to sell than if you're working 500,000, you got to be 20% down conventional or cash. I've never, ever, ever in my entire career of selling real estate have a 20% down conventional buyer not get the loan. Just doesn't happen. To me, it's as good as cash. So again, expensive listings, you're meeting, higher end buyers. All right, let's move on. All right, expired and withdrawn listings. All right, so the first bullet says only 2 reasons why a property does not sell. Who knows what that answer is? 2 reasons, 2 things. One is easy, one sometimes isn't quite as easy. 2 reasons. Price and condition. Overpriced. You got half of it right, Zach. Price and condition. Price and location. Marketing. There you go. Devin got it. Marketing. Price and marketing. A professional photographer, we have several we like. You don't have to spend a lot of money to find a good photographer. A good photographer is really the #1 thing to invest in. Why? The internet is visual, right? The internet, your listing is a digital marketing advertisement. That photos, are what bring people in. Hey, Sheldon, no worries. We're just kind of getting into it. We're talking, kind of had a little background. Now we're getting into expired and withdrawn listings. You can always watch the replay and catch what you missed. So again, invest in a good photographer. Find a good one. Find one that has, the wide angle lens, the HDV software to enhance the photos, right? It makes a big difference. We've all seen it, right? As a real estate agent, as a listing agent, your job is to get them to the property. You can't make them buy the house. We've all had, sometimes we see listings and the photos are terrible. Like, what is that agent thinking? They haven't taken this training, that's for sure. Again, what happens is people look quickly, right? And it doesn't catch their eye and they don't go. I know I had a listing up north I got from a FSBO once. Guy had, he was in love with his backyard. He had a big backyard. He loved it. Those were the first 3 or 4 photos. That's what he talked about. He also had a $35,000 brand spanking new kitchen, which was like photo 15. Nobody got to photo 15. So I got the listing, didn't lower the price, put it out there first week, full price offer, because my marketing was better than his. People, FSBOs, they don't realize this, but it's getting people there. Now, conversely, sometimes, we'll go on a showing and those photos look great. And then we get there and, the house is, I don't want to say it's disappointing, but it's not as good as the photos. The photos were better than the house. That listing agent did an awesome job. Awesome job. Now they're probably going to meet some buyers, right? Sometimes, again, your first duty is to sell that listing. But again, if that buyer, isn't going to purchase that home, then the whole conversation needs to switch, right? You're not talking about the house anymore. You're talking about yourself. You're talking how you can help them. For me, I like to keep track of things. I mean, if I had a buyer that either called me off the sign or off the internet, I would get 1 out of 4 of them. I'd have them in the house. I mean, and it was all kind of my chair is going down. It was all kind of pre-planned, right? I mean, I knew why I was there. My first duty, and it's always your first duty, is to sell that house. But 99 out of 100 times that buyer doesn't buy that house. And then you're trying to bond with them, right? You're trying to, tell them why they shouldn't be calling the listing agent. The listing agent, again, it's a lack of education out there with the public. Some people think if I deal with a listing agent, I get the property a better price. And that's untrue. The listing agreement is already signed, right? The listing agent is going to possibly, they don't care if that buyer overpays. I remember going on a listing appointment and it ended up being a short sale. And I'm like, you paid what? Like, did you have a buyer's agent? No, I dealt directly with the listing agent. And he got taken to the cleaners. So again, there's a lot of reasons why, and you need to explain that to that person. All right. So let's kind of get into it. So again, 2 reasons: overpriced, which does happen, but often it's not great marketing, and that listing agent didn't do a great job. So you need to communicate. Again, when you're on that call, right? You've basically, they're not expecting your call. Hey, it's Phil Wade, Dalton Wade Real Estate Group. I don't say like, oh, I saw your listing expired. I'd love to come over and check out your house. No, that's not going to get it done. You need to communicate your value quickly to them. They have a problem, or they had a problem. Their house didn't sell, and maybe it was because of poor marketing, right? Again, you can see on the MLS, that expired or withdrawn listing, what the photos look like. If they don't look like that, again, maybe they used a professional photographer, maybe they didn't. The order of the photos is also important. Kitchens sell homes. That's the first thing. If somebody has a nice kitchen, you should lead, here you have to lead with the photo of the house. But again, right after that, you're taking them into that nice kitchen. And then you kind of go, dining room, the photo. I mean, again, I see so many times, like people they'll show like 4 or 5 photos of the front of the house. That person might already clicked off your listing, right? So again, if it doesn't look like it was put together, the photography wasn't good, ask them. Hey, it's Phil Wade, Dalton Wade Real Estate Group. I see your listing expired. Did your previous agent use a professional photographer? Like, I don't give them a chance to talk. I'm asking them point blank questions that hopefully I already know the answer to. No, they didn't. Oh, I always use a professional photographer. The photography, the internet that's my opening line. If I see the photographer, hey, it's Phil Wade, Dalton Wade Real Estate Group. I see your house, your listing, either expired or has been withdrawn. Did your previous agent use a professional photographer? And most times I'm leading with that because I already know the answer, and the answer is no. And then when they tell me no, I tell them I always use a professional photographer. My photographer is awesome. My photographer has the wide angle lens. My photographer is going to make their house rock and look so much better. And that's what I start off with. Then I go into, did your previous agent do open houses? Now, again, you can't really know that, right? But most times they don't. Yeah, they did one. They told me open houses are a waste of time. Oh, really? I've had like 4, you can say we or talk to your broker, open houses are not a waste of time. Open houses are agents that work really hard, and you can get homes sold at open houses. It happens. It's happened to me numerous times. Plus, it's double-edged, right? You get to meet buyers, right? First duty is always to sell the house. Did your previous agent, did he do any social media? Again, I'm not sure. I don't think so. Most times, agents don't do. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they don't. Oh, I'm a Facebook expert. I'm going to promote your home on Facebook, new listing, open houses. There's a lot of buyers out there on Facebook. And you're going to have that write-up tie into the photography. So that's how it goes. It's 3 questions, which usually are the photos, the open houses, and social media. And then what you hope to hear is that, no, that agent didn't do that. And what you're going to then tell them is that's what you do. And the takeaway is that's why their house didn't sell. And then they're more apt to meet you. Does that make sense to everybody? Now, again, we have scripts, we have ideas, you can modify it. I mean, again, as you start making the calls, right, you're going to get feedback. You may, it's something, don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. I had one agent, I kind of do this as part of, my new agent training, how are you going to get yourself going? I had one guy type in, he was shy. Like, okay, you may not be in the right field. You cannot be shy. You have to let this stuff roll off your back because you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of folks that aren't interested. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The thing about real estate sales is the commissions can be big, meaning, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. A $300,000 house, maybe at 2%, you're aggressive on your commission, whatever, 6,000. If you're at Dalton Wade, you only gave me $79 of it. You kept it all. Little plug there for the company. But maybe you met a buyer, right? A $300,000 buyer, another $7,500. You do that, 6,000 plus 7,500, that's 13,500 in commissions 1 month. That's good, right? That's how you got to think. Doing 2 deals a month is accomplishable. It's not out of the, I think you'd be bored if you weren't doing that. So again, you have to talk to those withdrawn and expireds. Well, if they have a friend, again, it's their most valuable asset. Again, that's a hard objection to overcome. Then, they're not, how shall I say this? There is a group of people that don't, a good agent really can, bring somebody more money, but again, if they don't want that because, that's a hard one. But, we'll list for 2.5%. We have a friend, but we're going to kind of get into that. We can sell it ourselves. We're going to talk about that in a bit. That's coming up next. So let's move on. Next slide. FSBOs. All right, let's talk a little bit about FSBOs. They're out there. I don't really see it increasing. It's sort of a set group that, thinks, here's what they think. They think that, why would you want to list a house for 2% on the listing side? Well, again, here's why, Dave, is that you got that listing and then you met buyers. That's why. That's really the only reason. You may think again, that may be something that, again, if you can get 3%, that's awesome, right? The market is changing. It really is. Have you heard the Redfin ads? They're out there 1.5%. I look, they don't have a lot of listings, so maybe it's not working. But, people, it's especially with FSBOs. If you're going to go after FSBOs, right, the reason why they're selling themselves is because they think they can sell it for as much as we can. And then why do they want to pay the commission? That's the reason. Yeah, they don't want to pay. So again, you got to speak to that, right? And this is, strictly up to you. If meaning you as an agent, if this is something you want to try to do, meaning, sharpen your pencil on your commission to get the listing. I mean, I'll tell you the story, and I've told this many times. My first listing in Florida was a FSBO. She's got an $895,000 house. And I call her up. She's on the MLS for 3%, buyer's agent. Call her up. Hey, it's Phil Wade, Dalton Wade Real Estate Group. She goes, I know what you want. You want to charge me 6%, keep 4 and give 2, and I'm having none of it. And she's about to hang up on me. I already knew she would pay 3%, but I wasn't getting the warm and fuzzy. She wouldn't even let me kind of even tell her what I was going to do. She's ready to hang up on me. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm thinking. I'll charge you 0.5%. We'll give 2.5% to the buyer's agent. Total 3. I'll professionally photograph your house. I'll do open houses, social media, all the things I talked about. Literally, next words are, when you coming over? Cut your commission equal cutting your pay. No, that's not, Mickey, that's not how to think about this. You may get no pay. Let me explain my story. Could equal no pay. I got one buyer out of it, $27,000 commission. I got a referral out of it, $12,000 commission. So I sold the house. So I made $43,000. If I did not discount my commission to that woman, I would be $43,000 poor today. She wasn't going there. There was no way she was giving somebody 5 or 6%. It just wasn't happening. So again, these are optional tactics. You don't have to do it. No one is saying you have to cut your commission. That's not the point. Thank you, Kevin. It's how to make money. That's what we're here for. That's why we're real estate agents. We're not here to sort of uphold, the industry is changing. If you can't see that, more power to you. Again, if you can get out there and get 6%, 5%, awesome. There's actually nothing wrong with it. All right, let's get back to kind of for sale by owner. So what can they do? No, it's not a question of driving commission rates down. It's not a question. There is no industry standard. Thank you, Devin. Commissions are negotiable, but when you're dealing, let me tell you, I have spent an incredible, the for sale by owner market is maybe 5% of homes. So it's not that big. Most people still will pay, again, when you're dealing with an expired or withdrawn listing, there's no mention. I didn't mention, anything about reducing my commission. No, but with for sale by owners, it's harder because why they're selling themselves is they don't want to pay the money. So, I could have gone to that lady and said, no, it's 5 or 6%, and she would have hung the phone up on me. I made $45,000 off that listing. That's all I know. So again, it's a personal preference. It's whatever you want to do. If you go on the Dalton Wade website, there's never any mention of the commissions. It's what you do as an agent to get your business going. Probably, yeah, everybody wants 5 or 6%. Have at it. It's great. But, when I've been in Florida now 3.5 years. When I first got here, I looked, most buyer agent commissions were 3%. Now, a lot of them are 2.5%. Yeah, there you see, that's what it's all about. It's about that. Making money. You can make money when you have listings, right? When you're a buyer's agent, again, maybe in 2-3 years that buyer will call you up to list their house, but now, not so much, right? You didn't get anything else out of that buyer. But if you look at, Kamal's story here, right, that's exactly, Zach. That's what it's about. You run your own business. These are ideas that potentially can work, that ultimately, benefit you. If someone doesn't want to charge, if they want 3%, 6%, and they can get it, awesome. But sometimes with for sale by owners, it's harder. That's all I'm saying. All right, so let's talk about, what a for sale by owner can do. It's important to know, right? They can have a yard sign. That's it, right? Those probably aren't getting much traffic. They can have a yard sign plus be on Craigslist, get a little more traffic, but maybe their listing is exposed to 5% of the market. How you get the most money from your house is have your listing exposed to 100% of the buyers. Yard sign, Craigslist, Zillow. Now they may be reaching 25 to 30% of the market. Yard sign, Craigslist, Zillow, and then they can put it on the MLS. So you need to kind of know how they're exposing their property. So, with yard sign, Craigslist, Zillow, and the MLS, they are reaching 100% of the market. But that doesn't mean they're doing a good job at it. That doesn't mean their listing is bringing people in. As an agent, do you want to show a FSBO home? Because what it means is you have to do double the work, right? You've got to show what your client wants to see, and still it might be worthwhile to do it. But, you have to deal with that FSBO. They don't know what they're doing. There is no other agent to help you. Again, good agents, two good agents, they get the deal done. They get the property sold. The buyer's happy, the seller's happy, and everybody goes on. Yeah. It is a slippery slope, and it is something that, again, I just know with FSBOs, it's the reason it's speaking their language. It's because they don't want to pay. And again, it's and we'll kind of get off the subject. It's, the National Association of Realtors, there's a lack of education out there, both with buyers and sellers. No sell their house no one should sell their house themselves. I know if I sell somebody's home, I'm going to probably put more money in their pocket, even with my commission. And that should be the message, but that message isn't out there. So it's hard to know. So again, if they are exposing their property, it's kind of the same thing again as, expired withdrawns, except with FSBOs, it's always the case. The vast majority of times, meaning poor photography. They do open houses, because that's how they think their house is going to get sold. It may not be getting out on every site on the internet. They may only be on Zillow, Craigslist, and have that sign. They're missing half the market. They're definitely probably not doing any social media. So there's things you can help improve ultimately to, get their listing sold. So again, we kind of have talked about this. They're very sensitive to the commission. And then, here's the thing, possibly. You don't have to do it. It may be something you want to do. Again, here's the answer. Why reduce your commission? To meet buyers. You meet better quality buyers, right? Instead of paying Well, again, it's a strategy, guys. Again, it's getting the listing to get more, right? When you don't, when you work with a buyer, there is no multiplier effect, meaning no multiple transactions come out of a buyer, at least initially, right? Nothing comes out of that buyer. Maybe, you get a referral 6 months down the road. Maybe in 3 or 4 years, they call you to, sell their home. That can happen. But when you have a listing, the chance of getting a buyer off of it, like Zach mentioned, is pretty good, especially when customers call you up your rate. It's again, it's for expired and withdrawns, well, the ripple effect is very important. You get more, more business comes out of it. That's what this business is. You can start to get referrals. People know you, your web starts to expand. So again, why reduce your commission? Because you can meet buyers at no cost. And I'm telling you, they're better quality buyers. Yeah, I mean, a lot of calls from listing signs, right? Again, that's how you meet buyers. Think of it like this. And again, the same thing applies if you're, charging 6%, 5%. You're meeting buyers. That's why listings are so valuable. Because you have the sign. People are calling you. Yeah, I mean, one buyer off a listing is not out of the question. All right, this is important. This is, what I find happens is that folks don't actually make the calls. This is probably 18 months ago. I got in a conference room with 7 of my agents, and I made 10 calls so they could see that people don't bite your head off. I actually got 1 listing appointment out of it. I know none of them went back and called anybody. People don't do it. I had an agent one time tell me she called 20 people and it doesn't work. 20 people, that's nothing. Well, I mean, I don't know, Amar. I mean, again, it's a door knocking. I mean, the thing with door knocking, Kevin, is that you are knocking on people's doors that may not be selling. Now you've met them, right? And, potentially down the road, they may think of you, but, FSBOs, withdrawn, expired, they are selling soon, right? That's the difference. So, you got to make the calls or door knock, whatever, or put door knockers on people's doors. Whatever it is, it's marketing, it's effort, it's doing something. You've got to find the way, again, 1 listing a month, 2 listings a month. Then you're an agent. You're going to succeed because you'll meet buyers off your listings. You can call 10 people in an hour, 1 hour a day. It's not that long, but it is. I'm not saying it's easy. Sometimes. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're, they're selling, you're an agent. I mean, I think it's when, never lie, never say like, oh, I have a buyer and not have one. That's. Yeah, calling is more efficient. And again, I think it's more efficient because you're calling people are selling, as opposed to knocking on somebody's door that may not be selling. That to me is the big difference. But both, we're going to talk about this in a minute. Go on YouTube and type in, real estate agent door knocking. There you go, Kamal. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's why listings are so important, and it's putting that effort in, and it may be over a month. You might have called 200 people. You'll meet people. I mean, I've done it. I know it works. Well, to me, it's not even failure. It's more saying like, okay, if in a month, how do you get their numbers? All right, good question, Nishika. Yes, Devin, the expired and withdrawn listings are on the MLS. That is correct, but their phone numbers aren't. So let's move on to the next slide. All right, here's two services. They're the two best ones that I know. One is called the Red X. It's a little bit less expensive. And then the other one is called Espresso Agent. So they basically download, the information from the MLS. They somehow also compile a whole bunch of for sale by owner numbers, and they provide you kind of a nice, slick sort of site where you get the numbers and can do some power dialing, and really sort of shorten up the amount of time that it takes to find the numbers. If you're looking up the numbers yourself, it's very, very difficult. So if you're going to really engage and kind of do the calling, I think the Red X is $59 a month. Yeah, Red X has scripts. They all have scripts. I mean, so again, it's to me, it's doing it. That's really, that's the hardest part, is actually making the calls day in, day out. And if you do it, you will succeed. You will get listings. It works. I mean, I did it, and I'm not saying it's fun. It's the farthest from fun. But if you're really committed to get your real estate career going, you got to do it. Or you got to spend money. I mean, the other way is to find some good zip codes with Zillow or Realtor.com and throw money at it. Here, remember we started with human capital versus financial capital. A lot of agents don't have, you're not making money in the beginning, so you don't have a lot of disposable, income. So that's why they can't spend. So if you can't spend, you got to get good at calling. I mean, when I started in Florida, I think I spent $400 with Zillow, and I called. And I got my business going. I had the advantage. I had been an agent somewhere else, so I kind of knew how it worked. But I got going right away. And then I started spending more on, the leads, and pretty much, stopped calling. I mean, eventually, what happens is, as your business gets going, calling becomes less. You still got to do it maybe, but it's not as much. So these are kind of my thoughts, and but here's where you can get other folks' thoughts, which is YouTube, right? Type in, real estate agent expired listings, real estate agent FSBOs. 50 videos will come up with agents telling you what they do. Real estate agent door knocking. There's an incredible amount of information, people sharing, wanting to help. I've got some pretty good scripts, I think. I'm happy to share them. You're going to get a little email from me. It's an auto email. Reply back and say you want me to email you the scripts. I'm happy to do it. But here's the takeaway. Whatever you do, whatever your strategy is, you got to call. If you don't call, nothing is going to happen. I mean, obviously something can happen, you still have your sphere of influence, you still have social media, you maybe are buying some internet leads, so you can still generate business, but you will, just calling, it worked for me. I know it works. It's not fun. All right, any questions before we wrap up? Jason, that's a good question. I think having some cutoff, to me it was 150, maybe 200,000. When you're down there in that 100K range, it's tough, and you're meeting 100K. How do internet leads work? Well, Max, they can work well for some folks. For others, they don't work as well. I've sponsored. Good question, Zach. Let me address that in a minute. How does internet leads work? Again, it's agent by agent. I've seen agents build their business with Zillow. Zillow is, we're at Dalton Waite doing a lot now with Google ads. It's agent specific, just like calling. Some people are better at it. Some people are more comfortable on the phone. I am quick, and I don't care. I can, it's talking to people. It's not being shy. Internet leads are kind of the same way. There's a wide variation in how people follow up. I see it as the broker. We do a lot with internet leads at Dalton Waite. There are buyers out there. Yeah. Again, I don't know that, Patricia. It's possible. There may be a service out there that does that. Here's the thing, again, just commenting on that. When I used to do a lot of emailing into Craigslist, and that was okay. But when I called, it was better. So when you text somebody, right, it's not as good as calling that person. Texting is like quick, right? But when you call, you can build a relationship. You can start, I got a listing, again, when I was early on in Florida. I called the guy like 6 times. Finally, I got him. It's that, you're building that relationship. A lot of times they're not ready to give up their listing, or maybe, if their listing expired, maybe they want to take a couple months off. There you go, Bob. That's what it is. You have to be able to sound knowledgeable in how you're going to help them. That's really what it is. It's competitive out there for sure. So it's, again, how you can help them get their house sold. And some people can't be helped. They think they know more than us, and that's fine. You're on to the next call. It's kind of like, it's almost like you if they say no, that's fine. Right, there you go. Again, you might get more. It's that multiplier effect. Again, I go back to that one listing I had up north. It ended up generating 15 or 16 transactions for us. That's how the business works. Right, the main goal is to get an appointment, to go meet them. Most definitely, Jason. So again, if anybody wants the scripts, I'm happy to send them. Check out YouTube, get some other agents' opinions. Thought it was a really good conversation tonight. Hopefully everybody learned a little bit. You got to get pumped up. It's doing it. It's refining refining your approach. 10 calls. I had an agent tell me after 20 calls she was quitting. It didn't work. No, she didn't call enough people. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. Sandy, good seeing you. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. Have a great evening. I want everybody to tell me tomorrow that they made some calls. I'll look for those emails for the scripts. Thanks so much. Thank you, Mickey. I appreciate it. Thank you, Kevin. All right, guys. Thank you so much.